Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, insists Nigeria must be restructured to ensure unity and end agitations by various ethnic groups in the country. Former head of interim national government condemns absence of policy continuity in government by Nigeria's successive administrations. Department of State Services shuts office of the House Appropriation Committee over 2016 budget padding scandal. And dozens of Syrian families leave besieged eastern areas of the Aleppo city along a humanitarian corridor.
On Business News tonight, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council advises Nigerians to tap into the Zero to Export Training Initiative.
And in sports news, the Nigerian Wrestling Federation unveils 7 wrestlers that will represent the country at the Rio Olympics.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is insisting that restructuring of Nigeria along its current federating units is his preferred option for turning the country's fortune. He explains that this will foster national unity and integration, lay to rest the continuous agitation for resource control and creation of more states by different geopolitical zones. The former Vice President made this remark in Kaduna State at a memorial conference in honor of the late military governor of the defunct Northern Region, General Hassan Usman Katsina.
There is no doubt that the current administration in Nigeria is faced with enormous challenges. They range from economic downturn to insecurity, agitations for resource control, and creation of more states, including calls for devolution of more power from the center. This gathering of some political bigwigs and leaders from the northern region of the country, including a former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, is part of efforts towards addressing these challenges. The occasion is the late General Hassan Katsina Memorial Conference in Kaduna State. The guest speaker, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, supports many calls by some Nigerians for the restructuring of Nigeria along its federating units.
We have obviously not done enough to realize national integration, and the survival of our democracy is still a work in progress. The cost to us has been enormous. We even fought a civil war to forcibly keep this country together. Since the various amalgamations that created the entity that we now call Nigeria, different segments of Nigeria's population have, at different times and sometimes at the same time, expressed feelings of marginalization.
The Minister of Interior, General Abdurrahman Dambanzao, says President Muhammadu Buhari is doing all he can to ensure that the unity and peace of the country is consolidated upon.
By adoption of democracy, Nigerians are now enjoying deserved liberty and increased participation in governance. These 2 factors are among the essential ingredients of a successful democracy. In the interest of our democracy, there must be demonstration of good governance by all elected and appointed government officials across all tiers of government.
Other guests at the conference also have words of advice for Nigerians.
I subscribe, hopefully, to national unity and national integration. We cannot be one, but let's understand our differences so that we can work together.
General Hassan was the most loyal and committed officer who served his people, his state or region, country and nation well. The leaders of today have urgent assignment to invest in empowering our people and in enabling them to realize and unleash their potentials.
In spite of the various views that have been expressed, one of the key things the participants are taking away from this conference is that good governance remains the key for the sustenance of national integration and harmony.
Meanwhile, former head of interim national government, Chief Ernest Shonekong, has been speaking on the state of Nigeria's economy, blaming the country's current challenges on the non-implementation of good policies by successive administrations. He said that the country has many good ideas that can help transform the economy and make it buoyant, but they've been neglected. He was speaking at a conference in Ile-Ife in honor of the late Ooni of Ife, which attracted important personalities from across the country.
The conference center at the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife, Osun State, played host to several dignitaries, including prominent traditional rulers. The former interim head of state, Ernest Shonekong, the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, the Etsunupe Alhaji Yahaya Abubakar, and the Obi of Onitsha, Alfred Achebe, all gathered for the memorial lecture of the late Ooni of Ife, Oba Okwade Shijuade. But first, the Ife monarch calls for a minute's silence in honor of his predecessor.
May his gentle and amiable soul rest in peace.
The former interim head of state, Ernest Shonekong, in his address, told the gathering that Nigerians have good ideas that can help reposition the economy. But those ideas need to be properly pulled to justify the huge human capital often underutilized.
A policy is put in place by an administration. A new government comes and replaces such a policy with new less effective one without any reason of what to people. Also, let me say that we lack the will to implement good policies. Let me give you a classic example, which is the fuel subsidy. It has taken us more than 30 years before we could finally remove the subsidy. I think when you pray for us, please ensure that you include implementation of good policies. We should have to be able to do so.
Other speakers at the event laud the anti-corruption drive of President Muhammadu Buhari, drumming up support for ethical values to encourage those at the helm of affairs.
One key solution that should not be ignored, if we are to achieve a long-term material change, is good governance. Without doubt, we can perceive a new collective frowning at the corrupt tendencies of those in power and public despise of authority stealing. It is time we put the public and service back into public service in this country.
One pressing matter to the Ooni of Ife is that the youth should be encouraged to build a future for themselves.
Our leaders should take their time to encourage the people behind them, especially the youth. They should find their bearing, find their footing, challenge them.
Speakers here are positive that the conference will not just be seen as another avenue to talk about the issues facing the country, but an eye-opener that the answer to Nigeria's problems can be found in the values transferred to the youth and their ability to use such values selflessly.
Nurses at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, Ubo, Benin City, are appealing to security agencies in the state to protect them from the frequent kidnappings, which is already affecting effective service delivery. The nurses made this appeal during a peaceful protest at headquarters of the Edo State Police Command. They say the recent incident, the fourth in less than 2 months, occurred on Wednesday in the state capital.
This is about the third time that nurses at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital in Benin City are taken to the streets to condemn the abduction of their colleagues. It has become almost more than a coincidence and disturbingly quite frequent. The most recent is the kidnap of 2 nurses at the Iguosa axis of Benin City, the Edo State capital, on Wednesday, prompting this march to the State Police Command headquarters. The chairman of the UBTH Nurses Association lays their complaints before the Edo State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chris Ezike.
In the month of April, a nurse was kidnapped, released in May. In June, a nurse was kidnapped. July, 2 nurses kidnapped, all around the local axis. In the month of April, we walked. In the month of June, we walked. But our hands are now paralyzed. We cannot walk again because our nurses are afraid. Every day they are kidnapped. And what we heard now is that they said they have a list of nurses they want to kidnap. Why have we come to you today, sir? That an end might come to this.
The Edo State Police boss assures them of a decisive response towards the release of the kidnapped nurses.
I would want to assure you that everything is being done for their safe return. Kidnapping is a crime in the society. As society members, we are worried. But the kidnappers are also our brothers and our sisters. So it makes community policing an imperative for all of us. If there is any information or intelligence you have, intelligence is not rocket science. It derives from the little information all of us have. Please pass them around. We have circulated all our numbers so that even if you want to remain anonymous, you will be able to do so.
Under the constant fear of being kidnapped, it has become imperative for the authorities concerned to give these nurses some succor in order to assuage their emotions.
Reports say a prison break has occurred at the Cotton Cafe medium security prison in Kogi State at about past 7 earlier today. 13 inmates are said to have broken their cells and escaped through the fence. 3 of them are convicts. This is about the 3rd time a prison break is taking place at the Cotton Cafe prison. The Kogi State Governor, Bello Yahya, is calling on the federal government to investigate the incident at the prison.
Any source here to tell me that is there compromise in what has happened? The 3rd time, and no concrete steps taken to stop the occurrence of incidents of this nature. So surely there is a compromise, and then the controller is not around. The officer in charge were now around. No serious senior officials on ground to take me around to see what has happened. All I see here is a picture of a hole that was bored, in the on the wall. So surely there is a serious compromise in this. That's why I'm calling on federal government that we must collaborate together and investigate this. And I want to believe that serious disciplinary action should be taken against these officials.
The Constitution allows lawmakers to reduce the amounts in the appropriation bill, but they cannot increase it. That's the view of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, who spoke on the issue in an interview with our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shiele. Mr. Falana says the lawmakers need to understand the limit of their powers with regards to the passing of the budget.
The President shall prepare and lay before the National Assembly. It does not say, in the course of debating the budget, the National Assembly shall prepare and lay before itself. Once you understand that, you will admit, you will agree with me, that any attempt to rewrite the budget without sending it to the executive is illegal. What the National Assembly can do, by way of debating or scrutinizing that budget, that nobody has played the first one of the country. If there is any suspicion that the figure has been inflated, the National Assembly can look at it. But the National Assembly cannot increase that figure to 600 million naira. So that the remaining 100 million naira will be shared between some people and the contractor. No.
In part 2, after the break, Defence Minister applauds Defence Minister applauds Bayelsa residents for their cooperation with the Nigerian military to maintain peace in the state. To join us again.